Hey everybody, Jim Edwards here, and welcome back to the Sales Copywriting and Content Marketing Hacks podcast. I'm your host, Jim Edwards, along with my trusty podcast producer and co-host, Mr. Stu Smith. Welcome, Stu.
Thank you, Jim.
And today we are going to be dropping the F word from our lives. The F word. It's something that is on everybody's mind at least 15 or 20 times a day. It causes the breakup of marriages. It causes people to avoid opportunities. It causes people to cower in their basements sometimes as well. And it's all around us. It can cripple us if we let it. The F word, fear. And you were thinking another F word, and I'm shocked, Stu, as a former Navy man.
Well, that other F word does just about all the same things too.
Mouth like a sailor. Yes, the F word, it can be a noun, an adjective, it can be a preposition, it can be an adverb, the object, an exclamatory. It can be all those things, all in a single sentence. I'll tell it to you.
And sometimes you won't be able to understand some Navy personnel if they don't use it. You took it out of their sentence, the sentence would not make sense.
They lose all conjunctions. But in seriousness, today we want to talk about fear a little bit. And where did the idea to talk about fear come from? Was it from another letting the chickens out with Jim video? Or
I look in the Facebook group for ideas first. If I don't have an idea myself, I look in there, maybe just get some inspiration on what people are asking questions about, where a lot of the people are focusing on discussions. And this was just happened to be a letting the chickens out with Jim, and it caught my attention. When you say the F bomb or F word in your hook, it grabs you. It does grab you. So I was like, let's listen to this, see what this is all about. And I was like, something that we all know well. We've all feared something. We've all gotten over fears, and we know the great feeling that builds in a person.
Sure.
So I think it's a good one to discuss. And I don't think it's all bad. I think fear is just a survival skill. That's going to keep you from hurting yourself. But
sometimes,
at the same times, it can be misused.
It can limit you and hold you back.
Yes, absolutely.
And so for me at least, and I'll be curious in your realm, what the number one fear is, or the number one fears are, but in sales and copywriting, the fears that I see consistently with people are fear of rejection, fear of people not liking you anymore, fear of people yelling at you, fear of people actively attacking you because you're trying to sell, even if it's with sales copy, fear of wasting time, fear of wasting money, fear of looking stupid or making a mistake. So it's just the fear of not being perfect on the first try, which is impossible. Yeah. But yet people that fear is definitely there. So I think those are the main fears when it comes to sales copy: fear of not measuring up in some way. And I would be curious, for those of you who are here live with us, what would you say when it comes to sales and sales copy and marketing? What would you say is a fear that you either experience or you see other people experiencing? I would be, other than the ones or in, just reaffirming the ones that I said. When it comes to that, what are fears? So I remember when I first got out of school, I quit or got fired from 7 different jobs in 18 months. All of them were sales jobs, with the exception of driving for Domino's, which was like the best job that I could get, the most consistent money that I could make. Because at 21, it's real hard to sell life insurance and investment. Yeah. It's tough. Then I tried to sell these things called trunk radios that were basically early versions of cell phones, but cell phones were just coming out. So that was a dead end. That just wasn't good. I mean, I learned a lot, and I sold, I did telemarketing for a discount buyers club. I sold weight loss for Nutrisystem. I was an assistant center manager for them. Let's see. I'm trying to. I mean, I sold grave plots door to door, which that's a dead end business, man.
Ah,
That's you think about how hard it is to walk up and knock on somebody's door and try and convince them to buy a grave plot if they're not dead yet.
yeah, it's a hard one.
I sold money. The best one I got was after about 18 months, 2 years out. I went to work for a mortgage company, and I took all that stuff that I had learned, little bits here and there, and put it all together and figured it out. So the thing that I somehow along the way was so scared of rejection that when I called people on the phone, even though I was trying to sell them something, I would say, "I'm not trying to sell you anything," which showed that I was afraid of the rejection. And I remember that, but then somewhere just through repetition and experience, I got over it. Where I could walk in, I became a fundraiser for Big Brothers and Big Sisters of Williamsburg, and I'd walk into any business and ask for money because I believed in the cause. And I started seeing that, if I believed in the product and I knew who the target audience was, and I knew what the pitch was, and I knew what the reason would be that they would actually do what I wanted them to do, it would work out. It was okay. Like if they said no, it didn't have anything to do with me. And I think where the switch finally flipped for me was when I was working for Domino's. I needed every hour I could get. I needed every tip that I could get. And back in the late 90s, or excuse me, the late 80s, early 90s, in case nobody remembers, we actually were going through a recession then, and there was relatively high unemployment. And so I came up with the idea of, we called it hawking pies. And I needed the hours, and they were sending people home. And I told the manager, I said, "Okay, dude, I want you to make me 5 medium pizzas. And if I can sell these medium pizzas for $5 a piece, and I can do at least 5 an hour, will you not make me clock out?" I mean, I was only making minimum wage plus 18 cents a mile. I didn't need, and he's like, "Sure." So what I did was I had him make 5 medium pepperoni pizzas, stick them in the bag, and I had to go sell them. So what I did was I just would walk in anywhere. I'd drive over to one part of town where we had a bunch of hotels, and I would just walk in the lobby and say, "Hey, you guys like pizza?" And I mean, I'm dressed as the Domino's guy, so they're either going to say yes or no. "Are you hungry?" "Yes." "Okay, well, I got some extra pizzas here, and I can let you have or medium pepperonis, and I can let you have them for $5 each." Now, inferred in that, they were thinking, "Hey, somebody didn't pick these up.
Right.
Something happened, and he's got these pizzas." You fill in the blanks on your own. I don't care why you think I got them. But the pitch was, "Hey, do you like pizza? Are you hungry? You got $5. Now, the thing was, I had to sell these while they were hot. Nobody buys cold pizza. So in my mind, it's like they're either interested or they're not. I got to keep moving, keep moving, keep moving, keep moving. And so that's when I discovered that if somebody said, "Nah," that, "Hey, you like pizza?" "Nah." "Okay, cool." They're not my target audience. Okay, now if you say, "Hey, you like pizza?" "Yeah." "Are you hungry?" "Nah." "Okay, cool." They're in my target audience, but they don't have a need right now. I mean, I'm not over analyzing. This
No,
was how
that's
I
really good.
broke it. Okay, now
Really
you
good.
like pizza? You hungry? You got $5? "Oh shit, I don't have any money." "Okay, sorry. I'm gonna keep going. Can somebody loan you $5?" And then when I realized, hey, it's $5, and if you want to give me a tip, see, because I didn't get, I had to tell them, because since they didn't order it, they weren't thinking I should tip this guy. So I would say they're five. I mean, I can let you have it for $5, and if you want to give me a tip, that's cool. And everybody would give me a couple bucks. So now I was making $2 off every pizza every time I was doing this, and I could go through about 5 of them in an hour. So I was making 10, $13 an hour, which back in 1990, $13 an hour was okay. Plus I was getting 18 cents a mile. The point though was that I literally, by doing it, got rid of the fear of asking somebody for money. And it's the same process. Are you in my target audience? Do you like pizza? Do you have a need for what I'm talking about right now? Are you hungry? Do you have $5? Do you have the money to pay for it? Because you can be in my target audience and you can have a need, but if you ain't got any money, I can't help you. So, and then you can ask for a little bit more, order bump, and if you want to give me a tip, that's cool too. I mean, dude, I would do this 100 times a day. And I mean, I got so good at it that I had to be careful not to go back to the same places too often, because then they'd be like, hey, what's going on? So I kind of learned about that too, spacing stuff out. And I realized that it's not only the perfect metaphor for selling, but it's also the perfect metaphor for content marketing, because it's like, not everybody's going to accept what you put out with content marketing. Not everybody's going to take everything. It doesn't mean, they like pizza. They're just not hungry today. They like pizza, but you got something besides pepperoni. There's no rejection in this. It's just understanding the process and doing it over and over and over and over and paying attention. And so that, and then all the other experience I had was how I just got over that fear of rejection, to the point now, honestly, I can call anybody and ask them for anything. I will call anybody and pitch them. But that's because I know how to prepare, and I know that it has nothing to do with me. And it's just, through experience and repetition. And that's ultimately how you get past any fear in sales. Honestly, I think it's, yes, I do like pineapple on pizza. I love Hawaiian pizza. Pineapple, ham, green peppers, and onions, and jalapenos. Oh my God, I could eat a whole one right now. But anyway, that's kind of I kind of went off on a tangent. I don't know if that wasn't interesting at all or whatever, but and I'll tell you one other thing, back to Domino's. One of the things I would do, I had some really messed up thoughts in my life, and still do. That's why I think differently. But I remember, 1:00 in the morning, I'm driving around delivering pizzas to drunk people, and I'm drinking Diet Coke to stay awake and smoking Marlboro Lights. That's back when I was smoking 2 packs a day. Oof. And I used to think all the time, man, if I could clone myself, if there were 10 of me, there was some way that I could just clone myself and have 10 robots working for me that were making $15 an hour, I could crush it. I'd be rich. And you think about what is content marketing? It's putting these little robots out there that make the perfect pitch every single time. It's what funnels are. That's the whole thing. So my little fantasy actually came true. So anyway, I'm not sure if this was helpful at all, but it's a great therapy session.
No, fear, to get over your fear, and you did it. You actually practiced getting over your fear. Repetition, 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 until it becomes not a fear anymore.
Right.
It actually is like turning a weakness into a strength.
Right.
That it requires some patience, requires some practice, requires some persistence, and it is no longer a weakness.
Do you what are some typical fears in your world
I
of
would say
fitness?
most. I mean, there's a variety of them, from everything from the physical pain that you have to endure to the not meeting the standard and getting kicked out, and now you're serving for another 3.5 years in a job that you didn't sign up to serve 3.5 years for, which some people look at that as that's too big of a gamble for me to do. That's why I don't do it. So I would say that's probably the number one reason why people don't pull the trigger on that option of preparing themselves better. But you look at it as like, man, I really don't want to do that, so I have to work even harder. So I not only meet the standards, I exceed the standards, and eventually your mantra will become exceeding the standard is the standard, and it's just what you do, and you just have a higher standard for yourself, and you actually can endure it physically and mentally.
Talk about the mantra that you have and how it applies in this area of you can't think about quitting when you're focused on winning.
Oh
Maybe
yeah.
I paraphrased it a little bit,
No.
but how does that apply with fear?
Well, once again, setting a higher standard for yourself,
Hmm.
not just, doing things to survive at the minimum level possible. You're actually exceeding that standard. Is getting over a fear of failure, right? Because you're working harder because you don't want to fail. So you are getting over that fear of failure, just like you got over that fear of rejection,
Rejection. Yeah.
or whatever, it's all the same thing. You put any adjective in there or any noun in there and fear of blank, and it's really the same journey. You have to go higher than the minimum standards. You're going above minimum wage by adding 5 extra pizzas an hour. I'm working extra hard so I can not only meet the standard on a bad day, I can still crush it on a bad day. And on a good day, I am top of the class somewhere, right? Or top 10%. Because in a school or a training program that is an 80% attrition rate, you have to be in the top 20. I mean, just logic tells you that, right? You can't be the worst runner and make it through, from the beginning. You can be the worst runner of the top 20%,
Right.
right? But that's you've just raised the standard for yourself. Like I said,
Yeah.
exceeding the standard is the standard.
What would you say to someone who has a fear of heights? Because there's different physical stuff. What do you tell somebody who's afraid of that 3-tiered slide for life thingy that you have to do on that obstacle course that you have to like go like this on and swing up? What
I'll
do you
tell you,
say to somebody who's afraid of that?
well, that was me. I mean,
Oh,
I
really?
white knuckled every one of those climbs. I mean,
Uh-huh.
it was something that I legitimately did not like doing,
Okay.
right? Even that high cargo net, that 3-story high cargo net, when you're crossing over the top to get to the other side, there's a little moment there where you're just,
Yeah.
your grip matters. Uh,
Strong grips matter.
you know what I mean? So, I mean, that was one of those things. And then, after that, you do that every week for 26 weeks. It's kind of, you get over it, but it was still one of those things that was a little pucker factor. Wasn't horrible like it was at the beginning, but it
Right.
was something that kind of got your focus a little stronger. Right.
So
And
how
so
did you get
that's how,
yourself to push past that? How did you overcome that fear? Just weigh the fear against everything else you'd lose if you didn't do this one thing?
you know what I did is I started, well, they timed you no matter what. So if you could get a better time, right, you
Uh-huh.
wouldn't have to go get wet and sandy. So there
Okay.
was a benefit for me to just get over that obstacle versus tippy toe through it and try to, you know, go too slow or be scared and stop and catch my breath. The goal was just to get through it as fast as possible, because if you could come back faster than you were the previous week, you got less pain on the back end. Right.
Okay.
So there was a benefit reward process to it. And I think if you can find ways to benefit yourself after getting over those fears, that's a really good thought process to help you get over them. I mean, I used to throw up before every jump out of an airplane. I mean, nerves were just never enjoyed it. Never enjoyed jumping until I was
Really?
on the ground. I did it over 50, 60 times, but never enjoyed jumping out of an
Wow.
airplane.
Okay. Well, I
Yeah.
mean,
So
you know,
heights were an issue, but you get over them.
so it's interesting when we're talking about sales and reward and stuff. If you focus on what you get when you take the action, when you risk the rejection and you realize that there is no rejection, that they can reject your idea, but they can't reject you. But then you pay attention to the reward of like, hey, when I do this, I make money. And hey, when I do this, I make more money than I did working for my job. Hey, you know what? I ain't worried about this. I'm gonna keep on going. So that's a great point of focusing on that reward, and that takes the fear. It separates the fear. It makes the fear a lot less important. It might not go away completely, and you might have to practice and warm up and stuff. Like, if I had to go knock on people's doors to make money again, like if I had to go sell vacuum cleaners or sell something door to door, I could do it. But one of the things that I would do differently now than I did then is I would take some time to really work on my pitch, my presentation. I would break everything down into the approach, the hook, the all of the things that I didn't do before, where it's just kind of like bull in the china shop approach. Now I would take a minute to size up everything and think. Like, another good example, when Terry and I first got married, we moved to Florida, and I had done really well in the mortgage business here in Virginia, in the Williamsburg, Newport News area. I was doing really well. I mean, I was 23 years old, made $138,000 in 18 months, had my own house, had paid for Acura. I mean, I had $400 suits. I had it going on. I was still smoking 2 packs a day. And I was miserable to an extent, but I had never been making money. So making money made me happy until I met Terry. And then I realized there was more to life. And then I soon became unhappy with the 14-hour days.
Mm.
But we decided we were going to move to Florida right after we got married. And I went down to Florida and just crashed and burned.
Ouch.
Just crashed and burned. And I was trying to do the marketing the same way I had done it in Williamsburg, but I had forgotten that in Williamsburg, it took me about a year to really get going, and I had developed a lot of relationships. And the relationships were what got me the results. So I thought I could go down and just duplicate it real fast, and I couldn't. But what I could have done and what I should have done was, instead of just walking around being like everybody else, there's a lesson here. Okay, instead of just walking around and being like everybody else, I should have found a unique loan product or a unique angle or a unique type of buyer that I could instantly become the expert in, so that when I went in with an angle, not I'm the same as everybody else and you should choose me because I'm a nice person or I'll pay to sponsor your open house. But if you have a buyer that looks like this, I'm your guy, because all the other ones can't do this. And there's plenty of them. There's plenty of them. I just didn't take the time to try to have a unique selling proposition. And nobody did. Nobody does. Everybody's doing everything the same way, plus or minus, as everybody else. And that's why everybody plus or minus gets the same results. And every once in a while, you see somebody come along that shocks the world. And the reason they do that is because they have a different angle. They have a different perspective. They come at it differently. And that's something that I have instinctively done, especially over the last 15 years, of what's going to make this different than everything else that's out there, because I never want to be the same as everybody else. And that's how you can avoid the rejection, because you're the only game in town. Anyway, just random thoughts.
I saw a Facebook user question, said, has Stu written a book on what he learned as a SEAL? Just curious. I have not, but I've written some articles on something similar to that, and I can kind of answer it in a sentence. I learned that your body is 10 times stronger than your brain will let it be.
Yeah.
You almost have to disassociate that thinking part of your brain that's telling you to, why are you doing this to yourself?
Right.
You know,
don't go out too fast, because we still have to make it back.
Right.
Have you noticed that usually you're running faster on the way back than on the way out? Because on the way out, subconsciously, you're conserving energy.
Yeah. It's like I said, our brain is filled with survival skills that creep into our, conscious thought,
Yeah.
Quite often. But I think you learn how to, disengage that sometimes. And it was, that would be that in a nutshell. But no, I have not written something like that. Also learned that you can't get through on your own. It requires teamwork. So,
Yeah.
but
cool.
Yeah.
Well, any other thoughts on our F word theme today?
Just remember, fear is a survival skill, right? It is there to keep you alive, right? But to go past that, you have to get over that. You actually have to consciously push yourself to get through it. And, eventually you'll take that other F word that you're scared of, and that's failure. And you'll take that and reframe that to a point of, it's a learning experience. It's not a failure. You're not a failure because something didn't work right, or you made a bad decision. You are learning from that, and you will be stronger because of it, and you'll be better because of it.
And it's interesting. You made me just think of something. One of the things that I picked up along the way too is that if somebody else can achieve the result, I'm pretty confident that I can do it. So if I'm afraid of something, but I know that others have been able to do it, then by studying them and seeing how they did what they did, a lot of times that'll help alleviate your fears. At least some of your fears, because it can be done and it won't kill you.
Yeah. Sometimes you have to see it to believe it.
Yeah.
And that's where mentorship comes in, and, asking the right questions of people who've been there and done that, and you can learn from some of their mistakes. Absolutely. And avoid them as well. So
cool. All right. Well, great job, Stu. And if all of you are interested, you should be in joining the Sales Copywriting Content Marketing Hacks group on Facebook. You can join us there. Also, real quick, if you want to avoid the fear that your sales copy is not good enough, get yourself a copy of Copywriting Secrets at copywritingsecrets.com. I will teach you the benefit of my 20 plus years of experience writing sales letters that get people to send you money and do all kinds of cool stuff, like sign up for your list and go on cruises with you. And
so maybe why don't we do this next week? I've already downloaded Think and Grow Rich, so we can have a book report next week
from you.
We can discuss it.
Okay, cool. I don't have time to read the damn thing between now and then, but
you've read it before. Everybody in the group's read it before. It made me feel like, well, I miss out on something.
I've read it twice. So cool. It's actually in the public domain.
Yeah. I just saw it.
Cool. All right. Well, we will talk about Think and Grow Rich next week. Awesome.
You betcha.
So great job, Stu. And if people want to overcome their fear of nachos and overcome their fear of living without nachos, what can you do to help them get into better shape? Where can they go?
Well, they can go to StuSmithFitness.com.
All right. And remember,
find me there.
Fit people buy fitness books. Unfit people don't. So the the first step to being fit is to buy one of Stu's books. So everybody have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.